Thomas, J. Smith Council Chambers. Would you all please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? Sadie, would you please come and help us do the Pledge of Allegiance? It's so nice to have you with us tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thanks, Sadie. Kathleen, roll call, please.
Graham Murray. Here. McCampbell.
Here.
Raker.
Here.
Wilson. Here. Phillips.
Also here.
Okay, we've got some proclamations tonight. Teach children to save.
I'm excited to share this proclamation this evening. Whereas the American Bankers Association's Education Foundation established the National Teach Children to Save Day to spotlight the importance of teaching our nation's youth about saving money. They have set aside April 12th, 2019 for bankers across America to teach young people about how money works, how to use it wisely. And whereas, according to the U.S. Department of Commerce, our small, low national savings rate rivals the rates during the Great Depression. And whereas the current economy, rising number of America's personal bankruptcies, especially with young adults under the age of 25, college students graduating with, that's a tough one, college students graduating with increasing student loan debt, the increase in consumer credit card debt, the lack of school personal finance classes, and the lack of adequate retirement savings emphasizes the importance of introducing children to the concept of saving money as a first step to their healthy financial future. And whereas recognizing that young Iowans are our leaders of tomorrow, our bankers, the Iowa Bankers Association is taking a stand to combat financial illiteracy. Now, therefore, we, the city of Burlington, Iowa, do hereby proclaim April 12th, 2019 as Teach Children to Save Day. Good savings habits start early, and healthy money skills last a lifetime. Signed and sealed this first day of April 2019, the Honorable Shane McCampbell. We have a lot of young people here, so who's the designee to receive this? Do you all want to come up and get your picture taken with the mayor?
Of course.
Yeah, come on.
Do we want to do this last, or are you guys going to?
They're going to speak on.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, let's have a word from them.
Excellent. Well, I'd first like to introduce myself. I'm Jennifer Schuster.
We'll give
Hi,
this.
Jennifer.
Perfect, thank you.
Look like a chick I went to school with. But you can't possibly be old enough to be that chick.
I am. You're kind. All right. Well, I'm Jennifer Schuster, and I am F&M Bank and Trust's Financial Literacy Coordinator. I'm here today representing F&M and their financial literacy programs, specifically the kids banks and the teen banks. We have 10 student-led banks here in Burlington. Students from kindergarten through 12th grade may have a savings account, and it earns 4.5% interest, and they can bank weekly at school. This year, we're celebrating our 21st year of F&M Kids Banks in the Burlington schools. 21 years of teaching students the basics of employment, from filling out a job application, interview process, hiring, training, scheduling, and working, and of course the importance of saving itself. In addition to the school banks, F&M works with the after-school programs, the summer enrichment programs. We also provide interactive classroom presentations that encompasses everything from saving, checking, budgeting, identity theft, credit, and more. Our program was designed to encourage students to save for their future, to teach them basic financial skills so that they can use those skills to become productive citizens. We want to teach students that regardless of what their future holds, each one of them will need to know how to navigate the financial world. Annually, the American Bankers Association Education Foundation asked to have one day set aside, and we appreciate the proclamation that you guys just did for us, and which is April 12th. Today I have some students who are here to speak on behalf of their school's banks. And we are going to start off with Course Elementary's Aaron Moorhead.
All right.
Hello, I am Aaron Moorhead, and I am here to represent F&M Kids Bank at Course Elementary. At Course, we have 58 student accounts with a total of $24,798.53 in the accounts. We also have 10 educator accounts. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of F&M Kids Bank at Course.
Sir, can I give you one of these, please? Come on and meet me.
The next student that we have is Kinzer Carlson from Grimes Elementary.
Hello, I am Kinzer Carlson, and I am here to represent F&M Kids Bank at Grimes Elementary. At Grimes, we have 63 student accounts with a total of $5,256.02 in the accounts. We also have 10 educator accounts. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of F&M Kids Bank at Grimes.
Mr. Carlson, you want to meet me on the other side?
The next is Jillian Nickel from Notre Dame Elementary.
Hello, I'm Jillian Nickel, and I'm here to represent F&M Kids Bank at Notre Dame Elementary. At Notre Dame, we have a total of 101 student accounts with a total of $57,541.42 in the accounts. We also have 8 educator accounts. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of F&M Kids Bank at Notre Dame.
Very good, Miss Nicole.
I know your mama.
Thank you. Okay, next I have from Great River Christian School, Elizabeth Spears.
Go Eagles.
Hello, I am Elizabeth Spears, and I am here to represent F&M Kids Bank at Great River Christian. At Great River Christian, we have 58 student accounts with a total of $29,636.67 in the accounts. We also have 12 educator accounts. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of F&M Kids Bank at Great River Christian.
Awesome, awesome.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. And next I have Lily Newell from Blackhawk.
Hello, I am Lily Newell, and I am here to represent F&M Kids Bank at Blackhawk Elementary. At Blackhawk, we have 102 student accounts with a total of $50,362.13 in the accounts. We also have 25 educator accounts. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of F&M Kids Bank at Blackhawk.
Miss Lily.
And next I have Daphne Brown from North Hill.
Hello, I'm Daphne Brown, and I'm here to represent F&M Kids Bank at North Hill. At North Hill, we have 63 student accounts with a total of $9,739.03 in the accounts. We also have 12 educator accounts. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of F&M Kids Bank at North Hill.
And next I have Ian Stewart from Sunnyside Elementary.
Hello, I am Ian Stewart, and I am here to represent F&M Kids Bank at Sunnyside Elementary.
At Sunnyside, we have 72 student accounts with a total of $16,842.44 in the accounts. We also have 11 educator accounts. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of F&M Kids Bank at Sunnyside.
Mr. Stewart.
Okay, and now I'd like to have my Teen Bank students, one of them you already met, Sadie Plummer, but first we're going to start with Caitlin Kabliska, and she's going to represent Aldo Leopold, and since one of my students from Notre Dame could not attend, she's also going to do those numbers. Thank you.
Hello, I am Caitlin Kabliska. I am a 6th grade student at Aldo Leopold, and at Aldo Leopold we have 82 student accounts with a total of $58,263.54 in the accounts, and we also have 10 educator accounts. Thank you.
Is it Kayla or Caitlin? Caitlin.
Caitlin, do you want to go ahead and do the Notre Dame ones now? Okay. Thank you.
At Notre Dame Middle School and High School, we have a total of 102 student accounts with a total of $207,184.48 in the account, and we have 7 educator accounts.
Sadie from Edwardstown. Sadie Plummer.
Hello, I am Sadie Plummer. I am a 7th grade student at Edwardstone. At Edwardstone, we have 149 student accounts with a total of $120,814.20 in the accounts. In addition, we have 6 educator accounts.
Seems like I know you. Did we meet somewhere?
And also from Edwardstone, Maddie Klein, and she's going to represent BHS.
Hello, I'm Maddie Klein, and I'm a 7th grade student at Edwardson. At Burlington Community High School, we have 44 student accounts with a total of $24,666.83 in the accounts.
Right.
So the total saved in all of F&M Kids Bank accounts and F&M Teen Bank accounts is $756,318.51. Total saved in educator accounts is $450,471.65. So, thank you for allowing my students and myself to speak today. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Let's just get you guys right on up here. We'll even let James get in on this. He's gonna ruin it.
Just the mayor, or we get in?
All of us.
Up front?
Right up here in the middle. They got such a great looking group here. Yeah, he get the. Is he leaving? Let's get the nice looking people.
My hand hit it. We're gonna. There we go.
Yeah,
Get
let's
together.
Bring it in.
Yep. I say Charlie and Jennifer.
I've got at least another 15 minutes for this,
Okay.
Reverend.
Yes, love it.
And then you 3 right here, come down in front and kind of go like this. We'll get you all in there, okay?
Hey, let's do a serious one and then let's do a goofy one. Okay.
All right, count of 3, all smiles. 1, 2, 3. I think some people behind me want to get a photo too. 1, 2, 3.
Somebody just squoze my
I'm good.
fat. Somebody just squoze my fat meat. Okay, hang on. Everybody make a goofy face. We're just gonna do one. This is for history here. It's important to me. It's important to me. Everybody make a goofy face. Don't let me do it all by myself. You got me doing it all by myself. Come on, it's important to me. You guys are killing me, man. I'll tell you. See, the mayor's a bigger kid than the kids. All right, do we get some? I don't know. If you You guys are awesome. Thanks a lot. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for helping me out. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys.
That is impressive.
I know, right? I was like,
I saw that.
hard for me to do anything.
Keep saving, you guys. That's impressive.
Thanks for coming down, guys. Thank you, James.
Where'd you lose those?
I don't know, but James did a good deed. Wow.
You should like put them on and seen how long it took for you to notice you were wearing them, right?
As soon as I couldn't read something. Don't me.
It's not right, man. Never
It's impressive.
before. Man, can you see all that cash?
What, they didn't stick around for the next?
The whole meeting?
Am I sticking around? Do that one next. I know it. I wasn't thinking of that. We've got one more proclamation.
Yes, I have a proclamation. Whereas the Burlington City Council and the Keep Burlington Beautiful Committee wishes to protect and preserve the land, water, air, and other natural resources for future generations. And whereas the Burlington City Council and the Keep Burlington Beautiful Committee wish to observe the 19th Local Earth Day anniversary. And whereas the Keep Burlington Beautiful event supports and strengthens the goal of environmental sustainability and helps to keep the city of Burlington and Des Moines County clean and vibrant through cleanup activities. And now therefore we, the City Council of the City of Burlington, Iowa, do hereby acknowledge Saturday, April 13th, 2019 as Earth Day 2019 in the city of Burlington, Iowa, and invite all city residents to attend activities and participate in the Keep Burlington Beautiful citywide cleanup on that day. Signed and sealed this first day of April 2019, Shane A. McCampbell, Mayor. And we're going to present this to Eric. Would you like to? I wish we would have kept the youth around.
I want to thank you for the proclamation on behalf of the Keep Burlington Beautiful Committee. Earth Day this year, for our committee, we're celebrating Saturday, April 13th, down at the Port of Burlington. Registration starts at 8 a.m. Down at the port, and we'll clean up till around 11, have a free lunch afterwards. We have t-shirts for sale that go to support the causes here. They're $7. They're pink this year with black lettering, so really bright out in the community. We do have the free lunch and door prizes after the cleanup, so we encourage everyone to come down to the Port of Burlington. Registration starts at 8 on Saturday, April 13th. Hopefully we can make a dent and help beautify Burlington a little bit more.
Right on.
Great.
Right on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda. All matters listed under item 1 consent agenda having been discussed are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If a discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. On the consent tonight, we have the usual: finances and miscellaneous, minutes of previous meetings, payroll and city claims, beer, liquor, wine, and cigarettes, reports, and bonds. We have 3 resolutions. The first is a resolution approving agreement with IDALS accepting funding for a water quality initiative project on the Fifth Valley parking lot. The second is a resolution approving the purchase of property, PIN number 16-17-07-126-011, for extension of Sequoia Drive in association with the Aspen and Dill Reconstruction Project. And then the third is a resolution approving amended 28E agreement between the City of Burlington and the Quad Township Fire and Ambulance Association. We also have 4 public hearings set for April 15th. The first is consideration of an application for housing sustainability grant from the Iowa Economic Development Authority Community Development Block Grant Program. The second is consideration of plans and specs for the 2019 Recplex Road Extension Project. The third is consideration of plans and specs for the 2019 Dankworth Park Pool Improvement Project. And then the fourth is consideration of an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 34 Human Rights Commission. We also have some appointments, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, we have 3 appointments. One for the City Planning Commission, Simone Counterman. Economic Development Advisory Board, Dennis Fitzgibbon. Flint Hills Golf Course Advisory Committee, Ben Cooper. We thank all 3 of you for your service on those.
Okay, is there anybody from the audience that'd like to have any of these items removed from the consent agenda?
Owen T. Sloan, 1621 South 14th. Item 3, about the improvements for the 2019 Thankworth Park Pool Improvement Project. I would like some information about that since, okay.
Of course.
Yes, sir.
And then there's also, maybe I'm mistaken, but there's 5 other resolutions. Are they part of the consent agenda or not?
No.
Okay.
Chris Repke, 2228 Madison Avenue, number 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any removed from the consent? I see none. Council?
Nope.
Can I get a motion, please?
I move we approve all items listed under item 1 consent agenda, and with the exception of items number 3 and number 1.
Second.
Real quick, we wanted number 1, the resolution, correct? Not number 1,
The pool is not on the consent, it's on regular. Number 3, pool.
3, set date for public hearing.
Okay.
2
And
separate
number 1, a
sections.
resolution,
Yeah.
One
and
is
number
resolution.
3, future.
Set, yeah.
Okay. Kathleen?
Do I have a second?
Yes, I second.
Graham Murray,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Rinker,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Okay. This is time set for hearing for consideration of plans and specifications for the 2019 ADA improvements. Publication has been made in the Hawkeye as prescribed. Mr. McGregor?
Good evening. Eric has a PowerPoint I'd like him to throw up. This is the ADA plans and specs. I know a little bit more about it than I did the previous week because I did a little research on it. So this is a project that we've never really done anything with. We allot $50,000 in road use tax for ADA compliance work. So if you can see the pie chart on the bottom, I think Jesse figured that on kind of uncompliant ramps. So there's a fair amount of sidewalks and then also crosswalks that are not compliant within the city of Burlington. Some of them will never become compliant just because of the geographic location that they sit on. You know, for instance, we sit on a pretty good sized hill there. The slopes are too much to make that compliant, but there's a need to try and get the other parts of the community to compliance. And so this project is one of those first steps. So we laid out an ADA plan last October, and that it discussed a lot of these types of things. If you could hit the next slide for me. So it's kind of hard to see where it's at, but this project is for the most part, a large section of sidewalk work around the Mount Pleasant Street Bridge as a part of that project to try and reduce the overall scope of that project. We decided to do this kind of as a 2-part project because it's federal money that we have tied to the bridge. So if you start doing sidewalks, now you have to pay a little higher price for those sidewalks because you have to jump through the federal hoops.
Right.
So it was easier for us to separate that out and do it as a different project. So that's a majority of the project, but then we also have a fairly large section on Barrett Street that we're going to be taking care of. And then off of West Avenue, there's been some complaints about some of the ramps up that have some faulting in it, so we'll take care of that as well. If you'd hit the next slide for me. So this engineered project costs $74,000. So $100,000 budget. It is fiscal year 19 and 20's budget numbers combined to cover the cost of this project. So we will go out to bid, receive them on April 23rd, award on the 6th, and then hopefully start sometime in May. It's a relatively smaller project for someone doing concrete work. You can kind of stay off to the right of way and not have to worry about too much. You know, it's already there, so you don't have to worry about many utility movements. But so that's kind of the plan. So if there's any questions, I can answer those.
So the questions from the audience?
Owen T. Sloan again, 1621 South 14th. Question about Barrett Street. You said you're gonna do something on Barrett? What part of Barrett? Because I travel Barrett every day. between 13th and Summer Street going west is horrendous, so so what are you gonna be doing there, potholes and stuff every day?
This is sidewalk work specifically. But I know there's a seal coat project coming up where we will tackle some of the work on Barrett, and actually we'll probably tackle some of every time we cross, we fix the crosswalk, so we'll be doing some more ADA compliance type work along that. So Barrett will see some work. I don't know the specific area you're talking about, but this is between Summer and Madison on Barrett.
Okay.
Any other questions from the audience? I see none. Council, questions? Nope. Can I get a motion, please?
I have a motion to close.
Second.
Moved in second. Kathleen?
Graham Murray.
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
Wilson. Phillips.
Aye.
Your Honor, I have a resolution approving plans and specs for the 2019 ADA improvements.
A second?
Second.
Thank you both. Kathleen, let's vote.
Graham Murray.
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
Wilson. Phillips.
Aye. Your Honor, I have a resolution approving bond purchase agreement for general obligation corporate purpose bond series 2019A.
Second.
Actually, the next two items are both related, well, they're related to each other, at least somewhat, as we've gone through our financing for this year. Two separate bond issues. Piper Jaffrey, we have Travis Squires here to give us an update on both of the issues, one being the sale of bonds, the GO bonds, which is a resolution that was just introduced, as well as a refinancing on our sewer bonds. And I guess I'll turn that over to you then, Travis, to kind of go through your presentation on how the sale went today.
Yeah, thank you. Eric, you have this? Okay. Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, council, thanks for having me today. Just going to provide you an update of what took place today. I have a packet of information. I promise won't be as long as the number of pages, so we'll hopefully move relatively quickly through there. So today was the day that we were discussing with investors setting the final rates on what we call your CIP borrowing or capital improvement plan borrowing. So that was the 2019A general obligation bonds. So if you want to go ahead and skip forward a couple pages here, Eric, go ahead. There we go. So sources and uses of funds. So just kind of a quick reminder of where the projects are. You got resurfacing, reconstruction, rehab program, pumper truck, street upgrades, city's portion of the airport rehab runway design. There are funds currently allocated under the TIF for demoing the PD building. However, if that project changes, you're able to redesignate those dollars, but that's just how we came up with what was in your CIP plan. So if that ends up changing, that'll just move forward to next year's street projects that are already identified there. Then streets, adaptive signalization on Highway 61 and Broadway extension. You can see that a portion of those are paid with the CIP or debt service levy. That's what the CIP DS is. And then the component that's paid with TIF. Probably one thing of note, based on where rates were today, City was able to realize what we call a bond reoffering premium, which allows you to have additional project dollars. So right now we have an additional $270,000 in your street or your street resurfacing, reconstruction, and rehab program over what was originally in there. So if again, for the city, a lot of these projects cover your fiscal year, move into next fiscal year. If you determine you don't need as much in next year's program, then you can back off. The thing that you are running into right now is a really good market for selling bonds and interest rates. If you want to go to the next page. On the debt, you can see that there's a rate up at the kind of the top middle. It says TIC, which is true interest cost. It's a present value of the average rating, including the financing cost. Works out to 2.58%. So this is a 14-year borrowing at 2.58% for the city. Again, Now, where these compared to estimates? We've seen rates probably drop about 0.5% in the last 3 or 4 months. So right now, even with the additional project dollars allocated in there, you are under where we had your original debt profile forecast. So if you're looking at the kind of the breakout of the schedule, I have some columns that illustrate that. Your interest rates on the column, I guess there's 2 columns, so that's my apologies. Second column from the right, you can see 4% and 3% rates, but the yields are what control the average rate. So the investors are earning yields of 1.75 out to 2.7%. So that's what averages out to the 2.58. These bonds will be callable in June of 2025, which means you can pay them off for refinancing if rates can somehow stay as low as they are right now. A little bit more detail on the following page, but not all, nothing really that's that pertinent, but just some of the bond math behind it. Gives you a couple of the average rates. In compliance with your policy, the average maturity of the bonds is less than your policy statute would require. The other thing I will note, with the issuance of $4.8 million of new debt, that marks the first time in a while that the city will be paying off more debt this June than you will be issuing. So your debt limit is trending in the opposite direction. So you'll see some debt limit summary numbers later. So this will all deal with what is Resolution 1, resolution approving the bond purchase agreement. The things that I will kind of come back to on this is that, market was good, rates are low. That doesn't mean that investors are necessarily jumping at the bit to buy when rates are kind of, the market's really been kind of up and down. As of the time I left our office, we had 4 of the 14 maturities sold, and Piper's actually underwriting the balance right now, so we're on the hook for that risk. We're hoping to work those off over the next couple days at the rates that we have illustrated, but as we've done in the past, we commit to working with the city, so we put our capital at risk, so we're doing that on behalf of the city on this time. So, any questions on this first piece before moving into the sewer refinancing? Okay.
Do we have to close this piece, Jim, before we move on to the second one?
I think we
can go through all of it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we can move through it all, because there'll be some summary stuff that comes
Okay.
back to it. So moving on to the next couple pages, something a little bit different we haven't done since 2012-13 time, where we did what's called a placement with attempted to be local banks. We really didn't get a lot of local feedback, just based on absolute rate levels, just not a lot of appetite for taking down $5.8 million of bonds. We did get a nice group of national banks interested. Now, a little bit about the sewer bonds in particular. There's really 2 types of sewer debt outstanding. There's the SRF program, which has its set of covenants that are very favorable for issuers of debt, meaning that you only have to prove 1.1 times coverage. You don't have to set aside a reserve fund. And then on the opposite spectrum, there's what we call kind of conventional market debt that has a higher coverage ratio, as well as requires setting aside a year's reserve. We're kind of trying to bridge the gap. We're finding sort of conventional market participants that will agree to terms that are on par with what the SRF program would allow. And what this will allow you to do going forward is we get these conventional bonds converted to the same type of covenants. You can get rid of one of your rate covenants that requires you to raise sewer rates up until the point that you essentially have only 78% of your available revenues going towards debt. So this will allow you to put more towards debt and not have to raise rates as high as you otherwise would have to meet those other bond covenants. So we're moving from what's going to happen, hopefully, and you'll see the rates, we're moving to lower rates at the same time as moving to better covenants. So this process has been popular when you can get the debt inside of 15 years. When you go outside of 15 years, you start to lose all these investors. So one of the reasons that some of your past debt has been conventional is, one, you haven't gone through all the SRF design stuff pre-2013. Now you're moving that direction, and because of doing that, we'd like to get out of these rate covenants And it just so happens that these both represent pretty significant cost savings. So that being said, you can see there's a bunch of proposals through there. I tried to rank them by interest rate, or the average rate there, and you can see that the top two, 2.53, 2.56. You see a non-standard proposal at the bottom at 2.42. What I tried to highlight in orange on my page, it's just gonna be shaded for you, are a couple of the differences between those three proposals, because at first glance, it would appear we'll just take the lowest rate. And one of the things that we set up is that typically all of these loans that you had have some sort of ability for you to prepay them. Whether that's for purposes of needing to restructure debt in the future, or if it's just simply that you want the ability to take cash and pay them off. So that would be what falls under the standard proposals, and we said it had to be a call date within 6 years or June 1 of 2025. So the top two proposals are very similar there. The JP Morgan Chase proposal was a proposal at 2.53, and they charge a bank counsel fee of $6,000, which is it's common. You can see throughout these proposals that they had various bank counsel fees outside of 3 different proposals. The second bid is from Zions Bancorp out of Salt Lake City. They bid without a bank counsel fee, but their fee was slightly higher. But in addition, they will allow you to pay off that debt at any time. So if you needed to restructure the debt, or if you had surplus cash 5 years from now, you could simply apply that to pay that off. So that'd be very similar to the JP Morgan Chase bid. The non-standard JP Morgan Chase bid is a non-callable. And one thing you'll see there is that you will save, roughly an additional $40,000 by going with the non-call. However, you limit some of your flexibility. I had a conversation with Jim about this on the way here. I've talked with some of my other senior partners, and we could, stick the numbers in a hat and really draw out any of the 3 proposals and really be happy with the way that they would work out. I told Jim as I was coming here, I probably lean towards more flexibility as opposed to less, just from the simple standpoint that there are a lot of unknowns with respect to your sewer capital plan and how all that timing will work out. So it might seem that, taking the extra $40,000 right now makes a huge difference, but when you're talking about, you have $20 million with the project, if you enter into that and for some reason needed to restructure, that restructure could be costly. The other flexibility that the Zions Bank would give you is if 4 years from now you decided that, well, we got money for projects, and believe it or not, after this loan, you still have one other conventional loan, the 2013, but this will represent actually one of your highest interest rate loans at that point in time. So if you had idle cash available and you can still borrow from the SRF program at 2%, it would make more sense to not put cash towards that SRF project and borrow the full project at 2% and use your cash to pay this off. That would be at the 2.56. So as we kind of just bounce back and forth on, strategies, I did land on thinking that the Zions Bancorp was certainly a favorable proposal, especially when they're that close at the top. So that being said, I will just kind of walk through a couple other bullet points here. Now, the estimated savings is before the need to restructure and account for final fees. So just as we sent the bid out, the difference between the first 2 proposals was about $5,000. And then you can see the estimated savings on the JP Morgan Chase at $540. And that compares very favorably to where we were in January, where we're looking at rates that were a little bit north of 3%. So you're looking at almost $500,000 of savings, which at some point was all bonus, because if we could have simply just restructured and got into the better covenants, it would be worthwhile for you. So in this case, you are saving your ratepayers roughly $500,000 over the remaining, what amounts to 12 years on these 2 loans. Jim, do you have any additional commentary you want to add on that?
No.
Okay.
No, actually, with what you had said, the idea of having the flexibility with the Zions Bank makes an awful lot of sense. But I mean, between that and doing the longer term where we don't have as much flexibility in the future, but you're saving a little bit more money. I mean, you're gaining something either way, but you're kind of trying to guess what happens in the future, and it's hard to do.
Yeah, and just by, comparison, you can see that there were 6 different proposals submitted by JP Morgan Chase. And they clearly put some value in what the call option means for them on their end. So I think it would be, while it's impossible to throw a number at it, one set of figures would be if you're 4 years from now and you had $2 million of idle cash and you applied it to pay down just a portion of the remaining debt, you would save $200,000 of interest cost by doing that. So, the numbers add up pretty quickly when you start, throwing those numbers on in terms of flexibility. So there's the prior debt to be refinanced, stuff you saw in my last presentation, but then, the sources and uses of funds, how those would work out on the final debt service for all of the kind of 3 favorable options. So if you land at the Zions Bank, the 2.56 anytime call, which is page 14, so skip ahead a couple, Eric, for me. Yeah, so in this case, you'll be issuing $5,850,000, liquidating the reserve funds. That should be 2010 and 2011, and paying off the bonds and paying for bond issuance costs. And you will be able to move forward with refinancing and saving roughly $500,000 on this. So you do see that on 2 pages forward. Then when you get to estimated savings, $503,013 is the estimated amount. 10th column over there. Any questions on this component or commentary back and forth? I know that's a kind of a lot high level. You're just getting to digest it here. I didn't anticipate that all of our bids would be on top of each other and you had 3 great proposals, but after kind of vetting through the proposals, the one thing I will add is that if you do choose to go forward with JP Morgan Chase, there is a small chance that that rate does reset slightly higher, maybe 0.01 or 0.02. Their rates were good through close of business day, and then they just reset on the market. So shouldn't be a major reset, but if you were
0.01
or 0.02, so that likely doesn't reset down further. Imagine that.
I think the call the flexibility in the call makes Zion the obvious first choice, right? I mean, you're talking about a $10,000 difference over the life of 14 years. And time value of money tells me that it just makes a lot of sense to be able to have that option.
Yeah,
right?
you're correct. The only mitigating thing for your city where normally, absent you having this laundry list of other capital that you'll be issuing for, you will have other options to restructure and save money and put cash towards projects. So that's the only mitigating factor. We had, Keokuk Schools had a similar proposal for a revenue bond. Same 2 firms, same 2 options. They ended up choosing the ability to have the call flexibility because of what could happen if the statewide sales tax for schools is extended and what that might mean. So normally in a vacuum, yeah, if they were that close, you would definitely choose it. Your situation is a little bit more complicated, but I kind of went circles around and came back towards leaning towards what you're assuming.
Especially if it's gonna reset. I mean, if it's gonna reset even at 0.01 higher, you're gonna lose most of that 10 grand.
Yeah, between if you're looking at between the standard proposal and this one, it's no brainer for me. You would take the anytime. Okay. I think the only debate would be if you wanted the non-call, the chance to capture more options, which I just don't love that, especially on a 12-year deal. If it was an 8-year deal, it'd be a little bit different, but you just have a lot of unknowns on your sewer CIP. So we continue to work through, although Jim and I had it's supposed to be a half an hour webinar on Friday. Usually, I think it went 90 minutes where we just kind of spent some time hashing out what your future schedule might look like on the consent orders. And I think this helps accomplish that, and having that flexibility will help with that.
So Zion brings that proposal forward. Are they looking to buy the remaining amount of available bond, or?
They'll take the whole thing.
Okay.
So this is slightly different in that it's a direct loan with Zion's Bank. So they'll take the whole thing down.
James?
So your action item on the sewer side, which is the second one, that's not what you're on to right now.
Yep.
Right now, what you have the motion on the table, but on that second one with the sewer, you're gonna be providing direction as to which route to go?
Yep, just a motion to continue negotiating the terms of issuance with
And-
Zions Bank.
And which would be the recommended route? I mean, just based off of flexibility, but you certainly, if you valued the additional 40 to 50,000, but loss of flexibility, you could go that route instead. You wouldn't be harming the community, you'd just be choosing a different set of priorities with it.
But you feel more comfortable as we have it laid out?
As
obviously,
he's brought it forward, it makes a lot of sense, so yes.
Yeah.
Let's do that then. To go with JP Morgan or
Zion.
Zion? Zion, okay.
So the last couple things then are just the overlaying highlights. Things I'll point out, if you go to the slide 23 of the city's financial profile, just want to hit it, one quick highlight on debt limit. So as of the time the new debt will be issued, you will hit 72.88% of your debt limit. That's just really kind of a function of the timing of closing May 1 to have your proceeds. On June 1, you will pay off $5.3 million of debt. So your real debt limit as of July 1 is at 61.7%, which is the lowest that you guys have been probably in 8 years. I don't have the exact number, but it's been quite a while. So council's done a really good job of managing that and setting your priorities over the last few years. Next page then hits your general obligation debt profile. Just a quick reminder, you look to the far right, things that we're looking at based on no valuation growth. It does look like you will need to keep your levy rate right around that 380 range after you add on new capital. Your first years of levy flexibility begin then at about fiscal '23. We've been talking about that for a couple of years now. You'll have some decisions on capital, whether to hold the levy rate where you're at and start paying off your debt more quickly, or allow for the property tax rate to decline by, somewhere around 40 cents is some of the numbers we've modeled, even with all the priorities on your 5-year CIP, which in year 5, we always stick Cascade Bridge out there because I know it doesn't have a timeline yet, but that's something we're just throwing in the models to make certain.
You were doing good till you brought that up, but please
Yeah.
continue.
So that's just one that we always kind of keep on the outside list for you guys so that you can evaluate impact with or without on your levy rate.
And that's assuming that taxable valuation remains stagnant. 'Cause-
Yeah. Yeah, and then some of your new capital stuff, when we get into that structuring, is relying upon some of that growth for maintaining that levy rate. But this is your picture as of now. The 40-cent drop does rely on 2%, I think 2% valuation growth. Again, then there's just a slide on your other resources committed to debt. Out of the, what amounts to $55 million worth of total debt service over the next 17 years, about $18.5 million is paid with TIF. $9 million is scheduled for dollars out of the flood mitigation, some out of sewer, solid waste, lost, and others just related to your other agreements, some hotel, motel in there. So, non-property tax resources cover well over 50% of your total debt load at this time. Anyway, that kind of finishes up. Want to just give you a quick update there. Any other questions or things you'd like to know here from us?
So the bond purchase agreement resolution, or the authorization for signing off on that, what does that do for tonight, Travis?
So signing off on the bond purchase agreement locks in the interest rates on the 2019A. So that 2.58%, it sets the amount at $4.8 million, again, which reduces your overall debt limit over time. So it's a very favorable situation for the council to have the option to move forward with that, dropping your debt limit. Rates were quite good today. It's an interesting market, but right now the deal's done if you lock this in today.
And so do we have any questions from the audience? I'm thinking they would have a problem with us saving money, but I gotta double check. Okay. Council, we good? Good.
Yeah, it's good news.
Okay. Kathleen?
Graham Murray. Aye. McCampbell.
Yes.
Rinker.
Yes.
Wilson.
Aye.
Phillips.
Yes.
Okay. Number 2.
So number 2 does not have a resolution, it's just a motion, so.
Oh.
Your Honor, I have a motion to proceed with negotiating the terms of issuance to the desired bank/investor for the $5,840,000 sewer revenue bond series 2019B.
Second.
Second.
Before we move forward, was there anybody had any questions from the audience? Okay.
And just to clarify, that's with Zion's Bank Corp. correct?
Right.
Yep.
Council, we're good?
Yep.
Good.
Kathleen, let's vote.
Graham Murray. Aye. McCampbell.
Yes, please.
Rinker.
Yes.
Wilson.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye. Your Honor, I have a resolution amending the conditions for the Dankwick Park pool free swim days.
Real quick, Travis, great job. This is a
Yeah,
great
thank you.
presentation. I appreciate this.
The next time, I think, will probably be, probably the first run-through of thinking through your future sewer.
Yeah.
Have your,
That should be interesting.
Well,
that should be interesting.
I'm really happy with the way you presented it in here. It's great.
Yes. So, since you didn't say that on the speaker, the next time that you are working with us, and we're, staff-wise, we're doing some ongoing discussions with you, but we're looking at trying to put together a schedule for projects that we can take to the DNR for part of our adjustment to our CSO schedule. And so we're looking to meet with them the end of April. Part of that is we need to make sure that we keep you too in the loop as to what we're talking about and the level of schedules that we're talking, the debt schedule that we're looking at trying to get, to take on, and the order of priorities that are part of that. Because we're trying to put other priorities ahead of some of the sewer separation work that needs done.
Yeah, so it looks as good as can be expected, right, with the amount of projects, but the modeling looks good so far. It's not, no big surprises. We're not talking, well, we've got a hiccup 25 to 50% rate increase. We're not seeing anything along those lines.
Amen.
It's looking fairly good right now.
As long as they work with us on the schedule that we
As long as
present.
they work with you on the schedule. The DNR listening, right? They listen to this. Thank you.
All right.
You're good?
Thanks, Travis.
And I'm gonna remind you to gas up in Burlington, not in West Burlington.
I do need to guess up, so we'll be down there.
Get something to eat, too. All right, I'll try this again. Your Honor, I have a resolution amending conditions for the Dankwick Park pool free swim days.
Second?
Moved in second. Mr. Tisland?
We had further discussion with South Hill Neighborhood Representative, also with the Gentlemen's Club there on the conditions of the free swim days. What's before you is to limit the maximum number of free swim days to 6 each season. That comes out to 2 in June, 2 in July, and 2 in August, where we don't have some that are too close and impact the numbers on others. And then free swim days, sponsors shall arrange and provide a minimum of 2 approved volunteers during the last 2 hours of free swims, or the free swim hours shall be limited to 12:30 to 4:30. Already had discussions, seemed like they have some volunteers lined up, and that shouldn't be an issue. Just work through that process, but that'll help kind of towards the end of the days when we have some, I guess, a little more unrest or rowdiness or excitement or what have you, just having some more people there on hand to kind of help out with those days. But again, free swim days have gone very well. Really appreciate the cooperation with the South Hill, and I think it's definitely a good event.
Right on. So, anybody from the audience have any comments or concerns? Mr. Sloan? Gentlemen?
Owen T. Sloan, 1621 South 14th. I still have some issues with this cutting down. One is, I forget your name, or you just said you had conversation with the Gentlemen's Club. You did not have any conversation with the Gentlemen's Club.
With Vince.
I was here a couple weeks ago, and I asked you, you said that you had some meetings with some people, and I said, who did you meet with? You said staff. But you evidently used to talk to North Hill or South Hill about it, but you never talked to me about it. Because the last time I was here, it was supposed to be on the agenda, but it wasn't, if you remember, right? So anyway, the things that I have is that, you know, evidently there's, what was brought up last time what was here, and it was about South Hill Neighborhood Association, when they have their party, there's more people there, and it's a bigger crowd. And there's more stuff to go on. Evidently you met with them, and they come up with, they're gonna have 2 of their people around there to kind of watch out and cut down on some of the, whatever the problems are. Is that correct?
Volunteers.
Volunteers.
Towards the end of the day, yep.
Well, these volunteers, what are they supposed to do, and how, are they trained in CPR or anything, or just there to?
They're not staff, they'd be there just to assist, to help, I guess, monitor the situations.
Extra eyes is what I was.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you know, there was talk about also the number of rescues that they were having on their dates. So if there's that many rescues, they should be having somebody there that's CPR trained, and not just somebody there to just to, hey, you're fighting, call the, you know, stop the fighting.
Regular staff is gonna be there. This
Yeah,
is just
but
extra eyes.
You're missing my point. My point is this. You said there was many calls for rescues also, besides the roughing and going on. That was what was told to me last time I was here. Yes, it was. So if there's more rescues, and that was brought up, I think Kathleen could check the minutes that said that. But if there's more rescues, then there ought to be somebody that's more trained in CPR to handle the rescues. Am I not correct? Because the 2 volunteers are not going to be trained in CPR. That's one.
That would not be under their duties.
The intent from the staff, as they talked with Vince, and I don't know who else they talked with from South Hill, Carol, wasn't around the rescues. Now, that's been pointed out as they've talked about the concerns that have been raised over having a significant length of time, and you've got, I mean, they have adequate staffing to deal with a number of kids in the pool. They're much more involved, and they have to make sure that they can keep their attention on that. Part of the additional assistance they're asking from volunteers, where it does have some benefit with the number of rescues, that potential rescue situations that you may run into, is that the staff that are there can be more devoted to watching the pool rather than dealing with any potential issues, side issues that are going on with kids who are unsupervised. And I think that's where there was probably a pretty good discussion. I wasn't involved in it, but it seemed like there was a lot of willingness to try to help with that, so that the staff can be focused on the things that, I mean, students are there. You got a lot of kids who are there that are designed to do the life-saving and do the pool lifeguard issues, not to deal with altercations between kids or other potential events that come up. And so just some assistance from someone who might be a little bit older and not in the same age group as who they're having to try to mediate between. So there are a couple of different issues that are going on, and I understand that we're not necessarily with the volunteers aren't necessarily directly hitting at that issue, but they are interrelated.
Well, you know, like I said, you said you met with the Gentlemen's Club, you met with South Hill Neighborhood Association, you only met with South Hill.
Yeah, I think that, I apologize if I guess as Eric met and had someone who was on both groups, I think he kind of assumed that the word would get back, and that's our fault from a staff perspective, not having the right person from your group to make sure that things got communicated.
And then, like I said, when I was here last time, there was talk about the altercations or whatever that was going on, and because there was such a high number of people there, and rescues. And that was what was said, rescues being having go out there and pull somebody out of the pool and give them, you know, some CPR or whatever the case may be. That was what was mentioned last time. And now I hear that, okay, they're gonna have a couple volunteers that come out and help out, but there's still, if there's that many people, there might be more rescues needed. And maybe the altercations or whatever you're talking about with all the people might cut down, but there might still be more need for staff to have maybe one more person there that's CPR. I don't know what you pay these kids out there during the summer months, but I know they're all they're just their kids going to high school or whatever, and they're CPR trained and so on and so forth, but maybe that might be something to take in consideration also. Okay, the next thing is, you know, there was some talk about a swim club wanting to put a dome on the swimming pool. That's kind of went to the side. My thing is this, is that still on the table? Because if the free swim days have cut down from, what do we have, seven down to six. And if the swim club comes on stream and want to put a dome over the pool, that's another cut that's going to come into the free swim days, because they're going to have swim meets. If they put a dome, they're not going to just have swim meets in the wintertime. They're going to have them all year long, right? And so when they're meeting, it's going to cut out. So I just wonder where that issue is involved
I
in.
think their agreement's only in this winter.
The lease for the operation of the pool is just from the end of the season, from Labor Day through the winter to Memorial Day. The city still operates the pool during the
Yeah.
summer months. There will be no bubble or dome over the pool in the summer months.
Okay.
At the same time, you do raise something that the council does need to be thinking about in terms of, this is a group that potentially could be asking to have the pool used for
Meets.
Summer event.
Yes, that can come up. You've already agreed to allow them to do the swimming lessons during the course of the year. I mean, there's other things they may want to pick up as part of this as they move forward. We don't know what that might look like or what the potential impact of that is. But that, from a staffing perspective, they're concerned about it in terms of what does it mean for people who are going to do season passes as time goes on. It may potentially have an impact on that.
And I think that's something we'll definitely keep in mind if and when those requests come to us.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
Yeah, as it stands now, their operation is during the city's off-use, so it would not be during June, July, August.
Okay. Well, that's all I have right now. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other concerns from the audience? I see none.
Oh,
No concerns, just thank you.
Can I get your name and
to-
address, please?
I'm sorry, Vincent Copeland, 405 South Central. Just to thank you to the city for, in behalf of South Hill, for allowing us to keep going with these free swim days. It is a blessing for the kids who can't get out and swim or who can't afford to swim. So I hope it does continue for several more years, and we'll do anything necessary to keep it going.
And so thank you, South Hill Neighborhood Association.
I will say, Owen, Mr. Sloan made a good point, though. If you can find volunteers that are CPR trained, it would be worthwhile. And maybe that's something we can even set up in the association to do some CPR training, so.
Anything else?
Not CPA.
CPA trained, all right. Everybody knows, if
Get
you're
my
gonna have a swim
taxes
pool,
done.
you need CPAs. Let's vote.
Taxes are on my mind.
Graham Murray. Aye. McCampbell.
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Here I have a resolution approving the final plat of 5th addition to Sunrise West subdivision.
Second.
Mr. Tisland.
This is a 5-lot subdivision located east off of Cambridge Drive, just north of Messiah Drive, in the Sunrise subdivision. This was previously preliminary platted and approved by the Planning Commission in October 2018 and the City Council in December 2018. So this is creating 5 separate lots. Typically, they had developed a large lot, single lot development there with condos. And through the process, they amended the PUD and are developing these remaining 5 lots as individual lots, but would remain duplexes on each lot. So a continuation of their existing development, but just a little different how they are developing it on individual lots.
Okay, guys, we've been here, but we're back again. Questions or concerns from the audience? I see none. Council, are we good?
Good?
Yes.
Kathleen, let's vote.
Graham Murray. Aye. McCampbell.
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
You're gonna have a resolution approving the final plat of the 2nd addition to Eversman's subdivision.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Tisland.
This It's a one-lot subdivision located in the 2-mile jurisdiction of the city, where we have subdivision review. This is, again, one lot just north of Tamer Road, separating off from a larger area there, adjacent to a existing property. So it's shown here in yellow, just creating the one lot with access off of Tamer Road where it curves back there to the east. This does have to go through the county's review and approval as well, through Des Moines County, but since it's within 2 miles of the city, we have review and consideration as well.
Council, or, I'm sorry, audience, any questions or concerns? I see none. What's going on here? Council?
None.
Kathleen, let's vote.
Graham Murray,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Rinker,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Your Honor, I have a resolution approving agreement with IDALS accepting funding for a water quality initiative project on the Fifth and Valley parking lot.
We got two.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Ripke.
Yeah. Keep jinxing you.
Pardon?
No.
Oh.
Sorry, Chris.
Chris Repke, 2228 Madison Avenue. Just some questions on this. Do you own that lot yet?
No.
Okay. So is that the idea of swapping that with Dresser Rand? The old Dresser Rand
No,
swipe?
the potential, what we're trying to get accomplished, tentatively, BNSF has agreed to sell that land to us for, as I mentioned to the council last week, $62,500 plus $2,000 transfer fee or something like that. I don't know what the timing of that's gonna be. This whole process has been 1.5 years just to get to this point, but yeah, that's in the works to get
Okay.
done. We have to have that in order to do this project.
Okay. Who is the parking for?
Project is primarily aimed at the developer, that's, for the facility right across the street as well as, 2 buildings over. They're needing, for their financing purposes, to commit about 100 slots, which is about what the design is in there.
Okay. So it would be a private parking lot, per se?
No, you'll see that we do we'll probably have an agreement that comes to the council for consideration of a good chunk of the slots being done for here. I don't know whether it will be all of them or not.
But they would still be leased.
They would still be a lease. And yes, it may end up locking up a good chunk of it to that one developer, but I don't know what the timing of that will be with the council. We really haven't had a lot of discussion on what the length of an agreement would be on that.
Okay.
But it will be sitting out there for consideration at some point.
Some of my concern of this is you're kinda, the same number of houses basically on Madison Avenue, you're taking on street parking away, and that's where this is coming from, spending $600,000 for that. You didn't have the money for Madison Avenue, but you have parking lots. Why not sell this lot to the developer and let them take care of the future maintenance, the snow plowing, and all that? Let them do it, rather than the city taking care of it. Then you'll get some tax money also off of that property, rather than it only being owned by the city. I think you need to consider that instead of just the city taking over a lot of these things. That's my concerns, and so applying for the grant, again, it kind of goes, are you then, okay, since we're getting the grant, we have to do this, we're stuck spending this $600,000, we can say, we decided not to take the grant, yeah, we approved taking the grant, but we're not gonna take it. Can you do that?
I'm sorry. Can we what? Say that again?
Okay, you're taking the grant. If you take the grant, are you stuck then with this whole project? Can you say, we've changed our mind on our project, the developer, we sold the land to the developer, here's your money back, or are you stuck doing it?
Well, council hasn't made any final decisions, and we could we've already had to kind of not follow through with the original IDOLS grant, and we were turning it down. This could be done the same way as time went on. They wouldn't be happy with us, but we could have it happen.
Okay.
The bigger point that the council needs to keep in mind is that 1.5 years ago, when the developer, actually it was about 2 years ago now, when the developer originally made a presentation to the council asking if we would partner with meeting parking needs as a contingency for him doing the building projects. The council agreed to make their best efforts to do it. To not follow through at this point would not be a great taste in a developer's mouth.
But that happens. It's not a great taste.
It doesn't happen, but, and you can have a council that makes that decision, but it wouldn't be my recommendation not to follow through on the promises that you made.
Yeah, but it's also a bad taste what's happened on Madison Avenue too. I mean, again, it goes back, this is not gonna go over well, but a city planner told me here, who's no longer here, that, well, the newer stuff has more value because you get more tax money than from the older neighborhoods. And that's kind of paraphrasing, but that's basically what was said. And that seems kind of happening here. And you gotta start, again, not favoring other things than the older neighborhoods. So I would suggest turning this down because I think you're doing things that are not helping the whole city, just portions of it, and the whole city needs to be looked at, especially your older neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Repke. I can appreciate where you're coming from, and I appreciate your consistency, my friend. Anybody else have any comments or concerns? Council, are we good?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Graham Murray,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Rinker,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Okay, number 3.
Your Honor, I have a set date for public hearing on April 15th, 2019, is a consideration of the plans and specifications for the 2019 Dankert Park Pool Improvement Project.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Owen T. Sloan, 1621 South 14th. What is envisioned for the projects out at Dankworth Pool, may I ask? What are we gonna do out there?
This project would basically put up a bubble over the pool, similar to the turf facility, but it would be over the pool facility. It would be a removable bubble that would be put up at the end of the city's pool season and then removed prior to the city opening in the spring. They would be doing new concrete deck work, sewer, mechanical, plumbing, heating and insulating the pool house for year-round use of that facility, and then upgrading some of the other components of the pool.
So this is for the proposed, or this is for that potential swim club having being able to use the pool in the winter time?
The city has a lease with Eastern Iowa
Oh, you
Swim
already have the
Federation.
lease and,
Yep.
okay, because the last time that came up, it wasn't really firmed up. I was at that meeting, and I don't think it was firmed up, but, okay, so that's basically just gonna improve the pool around and put the dome up, and they can swim during the winter time.
This is all
That's getting the
private.
fence extended too? Is
Yep,
that part of
this
it?
is all private fundraising.
Yeah, right, yeah,
But since it's a city facility, it's going through this city process.
okay.
Anybody else in the audience, questions or concerns? Council, are we good?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Graham Murray,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Rinker,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Okay, this is the time where we will take comments from the audience. Mayor Scott?
Good evening, Council. Tim Scott, 2017 South 15, Burlington. I was excited to read the paper this weekend about the discussions that you had about the downtown floodplain. And I want to encourage you to continue to move forward, but I'd also like to quickly cover the information that I covered when I was here before. On October 16th, the Hawkeye had an article in their paper about the county flood maps changing. And it was to advise property owners that were in the floodplain to attend a meeting on October 25th, or October 24th at Regional Planning. And I done that. And I done that because I looked up the floodplain in the downtown Burlington, and both of my buildings were in the floodplain. I had reversed the map before I bought those buildings. I thought the floodplain was on the other side of the street. And I was really dumbfounded when I found that. What they had pointed out, though, in the article, was that you could look this up on the Des Moines County GIS, or you can look it up on the FEMA maps. And you can compare the previous floodplain to the new floodplain, new proposed floodplain. That's what I did. In all of the county, and in all of Lee County, it had changed, except for downtown Burlington. The only area that did not change was that was covered by the Hawkeye Creek, the flood area of the Hawkeye Creek. So I asked the question of Chris Kell, who was the lead person with the DNR that was putting together the flood maps, why that was. And he says, well, it was because we wanted to do additional study of the Hawkeye Creek and the Hawkeye sewer, because we don't know whether that sewer is doing the work that it's supposed to do. And I said, when is that going to happen? And he said, well, we're hoping next fall. He said, our problem is we've only got partial funding. We don't know if we're going to get the rest. He went further to comment that if he could get the city to participate with them, that it could happen sooner rather than later. It sounded to me in that conversation that it was something they definitely wanted to do, but they needed to have, they needed additional funding. What they have to do is study flow rates, and it's time consuming and it's expensive from what I understand from what they were saying. You know, they just can't go out and check the elevations where the last or the highest flood was at. They have to check flow rates in the sewer itself to see if it's actually doing what it was designed to do. Why does that make a difference to me as a property owner downtown? Last month I got my bill for flood insurance for this year. It's $2,250 per building. That's $4,500 that I have to pay for coverage. What I get in coverage is 2 policies that have $10,000 deductibles and only cover up to $75,000. So they would pay up to $65,000 on each building before they quit writing checks, after I paid the initial $10,000 on each building. On the back of the policy it says, since reporting was required in 1978, there have been no claims filed on these buildings. They've never flooded. During the highest floods that we had on the Mississippi River, they never flooded. They've not flooded since they had since the Hawkeye Creek was encapsulated in the Hawkeye sewer. I'm fretting over paying this bill. I'm upset about having to pay this bill, but not nearly as upset as my neighbor is, who has to pay $8,000 for coverage because of the value of their building. What incentive is there for me to continue to put money into these buildings if my insurance rate, flood rate, is going to continue to decline, and I'm not going to get any coverage? For the flood to do any damage, it would have to get inside my first floor. The base flood elevation is 2 feet below that. So even if it reaches base flood elevation, I'm not going to have any damage. My building was, all the basement windows were bricked in. All of the sewers were shut off. They have shut-off valves on them. And it was basically flood-proofed back when there was a problem with it flooding, when that building was initially built. So what I'm asking of the council is to contact the DNR, this Chris Kell in particular, and work with him to find out before we turn it over to economic development if he does in fact have funding, and what that cost would be. They've already got a plan laid out, from what I understand. They just don't have the funding for it. And we can have some really nice buildings down on that end of Jefferson Street because we can get grant money to work in those buildings. I have put $250,000 into those 2 buildings, just beefing them up and protecting them and preserving them. That's not doing much in the way of improvements on the inside of the buildings. But it's at that point where I need to do that, or I need to sell the building, one of the buildings, to somebody that can do that has the ability to get those grants that are available for preserving those buildings. And, you know, it's only a benefit to the council as those values go up to collect additional tax dollars on them, so. And the sooner you get on it, the happier I'll be. 'Cause I'm really falling in love with these buildings, and I really want them to see something, to become something. So, help.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim.
Any questions for me?
I do have a question. Bring me up to speed. Is it required that you have flood insurance on those
Yes.
buildings?
Pardon me?
You're required to have flood insurance on those buildings.
You're required to have flood
Okay.
insurance on those buildings. You're required, even the bank requires it, but also FEMA requires it if you're in the floodplain.
Well,
I don't know what they do if you don't.
If you don't have a loan, you don't have to have it.
Really?
I'm gonna ask to table the conversation, and you guys, I'm sure Timmy can stick around afterwards. I wanna be fair, and this is comments, not a back and forth. But, we all heard the information, Mr. Tisland, you got all that in?
All right. Just based on the information that's on, that I got from FEMA, you are required to have the flood insurance. You can't get any other kind of insurance other than the flood insurance that's required by FEMA.
That's a lot of money for flood insurance. Mr. Ripke,
Just real quick, six things.
can you get your name and address, please?
Chris
April
Repke, 2228 Madison Avenue. I understand it's been, it's a tough winter, potholes and everything. Central and Division, the stoplights. Can you do some changing on the timing on those? The timing's long. I mean, I find, and my wife goes to work at 5:10 in the morning and goes through that intersection, and you wait there a long time. Because they've gone to a timing system because probably something broke in the roadway or something.
Something's broken. When are you gonna get to that, or do you anticipate being able to? Yeah, as they get time within their schedule, they do have that on their plan to get to, but they know it's an issue.
It is, I mean, I travel that. Also, this is minor, next time you're ever working on Washington and Central, there on the top of the bridge, as you go in, making a left turn, going north, at the light, you're no right turn on red, just adjust those signs a little bit. They're kittywampus. They don't really look straight at the lane. It's just, I don't know, I had one guy one day honking his horn at me, trying to tell me to turn right on red when you're not supposed to. So, other things, commissions, I read sometimes you file minutes for commissions and boards and those type of things. Can those minutes be put online for the public to read?
They certainly can. There's a time that goes with it. I think that you've asked for minutes. We keep a copy of them here at City Hall.
I know, but I mean, it'd be easier just if you could get them online and just read them as a PDF. I mean, for everybody, not just me. That's just a comment on that. Dog park. Like the dog park, have 2 dogs. For a resident to use the dog park costs more than a non-resident. The dog park costs $10, but then if you're a resident, you gotta get a $10 license tag too. So you're spending $20 to use the dog park, basically, where a non-resident's only $10.
I think you're supposed to have the dog tag regardless if you live in town. But,
Right.
But we understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so I mean, you're kind of penalizing residents for using the dog, it's $20.
The tag isn't for using the dog park. It's a separate process or
Right, you got
separate
2
purpose.
tags. You got the dog park tag and the license tag.
There's a separate purpose.
Right, I know, but I mean, it's $20 for a resident, $10 for a non-resident, because they don't need the other tag. They only need the dog park tag. Something to consider. I mean, because you're charging more basically to resident than non-resident. I know, it doesn't, so. The golf disc, I live next to the park now, and we walk it a lot more. If you could just maybe, it'd be interesting, put a PDF of how the holes are laid out, something like that. Just, because I've looked, I was like, how are these holes actually laid out? I've looked online and just haven't found it.
For
Just
the disc
something-
golf?
For disc golf. Just something minor like that, it's nothing. And one other, last thing, Dresser-Rand, the city got the Dresser-Rand site with an agreement with Dresser-Rand when he moved to the business park. Did Dresser-Rand and Siemens, were all requirements fulfilled by them with that? Just curious, because
Yes.
Siemens is closed.
Yes.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rebke. Anybody? Yes, sir. Mr. Sloan?
Owen T. Sloan, 1621 South 14th. Just one clarification. I'm just the secretary of the Gentlemen's Club. I'm not the one, I just come down here to talk about that. Vince is a member of the Gentlemen's Club also, but, couple of things I want to bring up. It's not council related, but this is hopefully I can get the council involved in this. The Gentlemen's Club, like I mentioned before, and one other time I was down here, I handed out pamphlets to all you about how the Gentlemen's Club got started and so on and so forth. But just a couple things, I'm here to beg. My father also used to say, it's a poor dog that won't scratch his own back. So I'm scratching my back. This year, on August the 10th, we will be hosting our 20th golf play day out at Flint Hills Park Golf Course. And we use that to fund our scholarships. This year also, we'll be meeting in 2 weeks at our annual meeting to award some scholarships. And we've been doing scholarships. This will mark a milestone in our history of the Gentlemen's Club. This will be 25 years we've been handing out scholarships to graduating students that are all...
No doubt.
Thank you, but we've been, the students have been recipients coming from BHS, of course, Notre Dame, Fort Madison High School, West Burlington High School, Mediapolis High School, and we even had one that came in from Davenport High School. So it's kind of a big deal with us. And I'm just a duffer. I don't golf. One time when our club was big, we had about 5, 7 guys golfing. They were some of the guys were what they called rangers out there, where they run around in the carts and speed people up golfing and ask if they had trouble and stuff. But I'm just a duffer. But we started back in this was my bailiwick, as to speak about, not just raising money at the golf course during our golf tournament, but to start selling flags. And this is last year's flag, 19 years. And we go out and get businesses to support. They're just $50. And then we show them up, we post them around the windows of the clubhouse, and then we give them to the individual that purchased the flag. So I'm hoping that maybe the city of Burlington might want to help us support us. I have a form, and also maybe you might have some golfers that might want to golf. I have a couple of registration forms for the golf tournament, and help us out. Like I say, I'm begging. If you can't talk about something you're doing, maybe you won't get, because all you can say is no. That's it. So
I think you need to leave one of those.
I'm going to leave them. I'm going to leave a form here with you.
Most definitely.
But anyway, like I said, we've been doing this, and it's really going to be this year's flag is going to be a little bit different. It'll be our 20th year golfing for the scholarships, but I'm going to put something on it, because this is what I get with the people that make these up, and like I say, that's my bailiwick, because they weren't doing this, and I said, you guys golf all the time, you see these golf flags and these things, and so we started doing this, and it helps out our scholarship fund. And like I said, I'm going to redo it. It'll be get with one of the vendors and get it redone, and it'll be 20th year at the golf course golfing, and we're going to have something in there about 25 years supporting our scholarships. So just something. I'll leave an application with you, and hopefully you can take out a flag, maybe get a team to golf, and have some fun with us out there at Flint Hills Golf Course.
So do you have a thing for the flag and a thing for team?
Oh yeah,
Okay. Yeah, because I want to.
I told you, this is my bailiwick, man. I got them all right here.
All right.
There's a couple of forms, and then there's one for the flag.
Thank you, sir. Hang on to that one for the flag.
Put it in reader.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Does anybody
Any other comments from the audience? Okay, Mr. Tisland? Kathleen? Your hair looks lovely tonight. Peanut butter.
I have a couple things. Just a reminder, on April 13th, South Hill's having their Easter egg hunt, so gear up for that. Starts at 11, South Hill Park. Hopefully the weather will be good. Also on Saturday, April 13th, get your running shoes laced up. The Beaster Bunny Race takes
what?
place. The Beaster Bunny Race.
A Beaster bunny?
You can even wear rabbit ears, Mayor. So it starts out at the Recplex at 8 a.m. There's also an egg hunt, and generally there's not a lot of children attending that, so there's lots of candy and lots of stuff. So a good time for everybody in the family. And then don't forget, April 13th is Earth Day as well, for those really cool pink and black T-shirts Eric told you about. So.
All righty then. Counselor?
Not a thing.
This Thursday is the, I don't know what annual Mayor's Awards ceremony this is, but, what's that? It's tomorrow. That's what I meant to say. Something else is Thursday. It's tomorrow. And I just want to just give a congratulations to all the people that were nominated. We've got a lot of good volunteers in the Burlington and Des Moines County area, and it's just it's an honor to be a part of that. So I'm really looking forward to that and seeing all the volunteers that come out for that event. There's something. Oh, hey, do you got a camera? Can you get a close up on that? We'll talk about it later. Anyways, I think I'll stop right there. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yep, so the Bees are back playing in town they're actually playing Thursday and Friday at 6 p.m. here instead of an away game, so that'll be exciting. But their first official opening game is Saturday at 5 p.m. So we'll see you all out there. That's all I have.
I forgot one. Also, we had an event. It was the Battle of the Brushes was this weekend. It was the first time I got to participate in it. It was a fantastic time, and I can't remember what the total amount that they raised for the art center, but the mayor's painting raised $1,100.
It was nice. That looked nice. I saw it.
I'll tell you what. I knew drawing all those stick figures in high school was going to come back and pay off big dividends. So, but it was a great event. Tammy McCoy, they just did a fantastic job, and anybody that missed out on that, I think if you get a chance to participate or go check that out again next year, it's an event worth checking out. Counselor?
Nothing.
James?
Nick.
We're proud of Nick. You know, do you have an announcement that you want to make?
Oh, yeah.
We're
Nick
really
is
great.
Mr. McGregor.
You know, he's not going to make it, but I just want all the watchers to know that Nick McGregor is engaged. She's got a pulse. I've seen pictures of her. She's beautiful. I can't believe it. So we're all proud of you,
April
Nick.
Fools.
Please
Really, it's
continue.
for real.
Oh, man.
He's off the market, ladies.
You guys are too much.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I did come up here for more than just that. As you may have noticed, construction season is beginning. Mount Pleasant Street, you've seen some cones between Roosevelt and West Burlington Avenue. There are some driveways and then a sidewalk and intake tops that still need to be done, so that project is still going. The surface of the roadway is done for the most part. There'll be some striping that may ensue towards the end, but we'll be seeing some cones out on Mount Pleasant for the next month.
Yeah.
They tested the first pour of the bridge deck. The beam did not crack at the appropriate point, so they may pour tomorrow, but it was more likely Wednesday. Osborne will not be shut. They'll be pouring from the bridge deck, the first pour they did, so they bring the concrete trucks up onto Spring and then pour the rest of the ridge deck, so won't have to close down Osborne for that. There was another construction. Aspen or Mason Road project. You've seen some cones probably appear on both sides of the road. Alliant Energy is likely the people that have brought that in. They have to move 2 poles out of the way of the trail project that will be starting up shortly. You'll probably see some work, some grading work start for the trail project, but that shouldn't take too much to get done. So those are the few things that you see right now. Aspendale will likely start mid to end of April. It's the same contractor, so they would rather get the Mason Road project, the trail project done first. So that's my update.
I had one other one. Steve Freevert is, he's ripping out all the bricks of Snake Alley and changing the name. So all of you that saw that on Facebook, just call Steve Freevert. I think his phone number is in the phone book, so he'd love to take all of your calls. That was shared like 200 and some times, so. You really have issues. I'm proud of you. I'm really proud of you. James?
Just, I guess, one of the things, talking with Eric, we're looking to bring back, and we're supposed to be bringing back an agreement on the tennis courts. It's not looking like we're gonna be bringing something back at this point. The school has decided that they don't wanna move forward with us. They may at some point in the future, but at this point, they do not desire to.
Can we have a discussion on taking those funds and doing something else at this point?
I think that
Because I know we kicked a restroom project a couple of years back to facilitate that, so is that a conversation to be had?
I don't know what your thoughts were, Eric. Typically, what we would be doing is just reevaluating as we got to next year's CIP, but did you have anything else?
Yeah, we'd have to look at that. The restroom, we don't have enough funds built up to do that at this point regardless. It's still after the Dankwart Playground project, so, yeah, we'd have to reevaluate that or evaluate whether we do a smaller project or less project on the courts at some point, so.
We're gonna need that for contingency money.
Well, I mean, was funded, our portion was with Starker funds, and then we match that with hotel motel as we get into a lot of your projects, and, you know, we can do it mid-year, but to some extent, the majority of the work that you were committed to, I think you're already committed to, and it's easier to just, unless you have a pressing thing to put forward, it's easier to kind of reevaluate when you get to the next year's basis and you're trying to prioritize where the projects fit in. You had I know that you had another issue on another project that required some potential to look at it for being done at a different time than what it was, and it may be something that is impacted by it, but I can't even remember what it was. It was, yes, it's a different trail, and I just can't remember if it was something that was comparable or not. But, that is all I had. I'm the one who's on the radio, so I'll let him know that. Yes.
Just one other update on construction. They started on White Park, so they've ripped out all the old asphalt on that and the old playground, and so they're starting work on that, which is a good sign. We'll do some seeding. Probably won't have the playground back intact before the Juneteenth, but we are going to seed right away to have that all graded and seeded and the concrete back with the walkways to and from. So we'll see some progress continue on that.
All right. Okay, let's get a motion then.
Move to close.
Let's close.
Second.
Moved and second. Kathleen?
Graham Murray.
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
This meeting's adjourned. Good night, everybody.
I didn't have it.
New phenomenon for you?
And someone went all like, I can't believe the council, the nerve of it, you know, I mean, man, some people were just ripping into us, man, you know, and it's a, you know.
Way off.
What?
Like people showing like sad faces.
Oh, I did look at it, and it does work on them.